Hi everyone, my name is Rohit and I'll be hosting this webinar today along with my colleague Daniel. So let's start. The topic of today's webinar is 10 tips to super experience. The next part of this webinar will be taken by Daniel. So over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Rohit. So today's agenda is a quick introduction to Site 24/7, and then we will discuss on the 10 tips for websites availability and performance. And then at the end, we will take a look into Site 24/7's full stack monitoring solution. So let's get into the topic. So websites experience. So website is the face of your business. So it's very important to make sure that your website is up and running all the time. At the same time, it should perform well, and the security is also important. So these are the three important categories that are important for your website. So the first and foremost thing that can impact user experience is the uptime. When a website is unavailable, the users will see broken pages, which will frustrate the user who wants to do business activity on the website. Equally important is the security of the website. If a user gets hit by a phishing attack while browsing the website, they will lose trust on your product and never return. It will be a nightmare for business to build the same level of trust again or bridge the gap. And finally, a recent study on the KISS metrics shows a website that takes more than 4 seconds to load the page, users will tend to leave the page. So we have this term, slow is the new down. So it's very essential to provide greater performing applications to the end user, so to keep them satisfied, because user satisfaction level are measured by the performance. So taking into factor these important categories which govern your website's experience, user experience. So these are the 10 tips which help you in managing this website experience. So you can monitor your website's uptime, performance, and security issues. So under uptime, you can identify uptime issues for your users across the globe. You can check whether your website is up and running from different parts of the globe. And you can check whether create transaction in your website are functional. Say if you have a sign up form, user goes to your page, fills up a form, clicks on sign up, and if that form is not working, you're not going to receive any sign up. So you have to make sure that the sign up form is working properly. So that's how we can monitor the transactions. And tracking the uptime of all third-party domains used in a website. Say you may have injected some images or resources from third-party websites into your website. If those links are broken, if those links are not reachable, your website content is not fulfilled. It's going to be broken. And then around 50% of the websites are accessed from mobile devices. So mobile first websites should take care of the REST API calls, because for mobile applications, mobile websites, REST API calls are used to get them data. So that takes care of the uptime. So you have to make sure all these components are up and running all the time. So next thing is on the performance. So where you have to ensure whether your website is getting resolved immediately. Say for example, if the DNS server is slow, if it is not resolving your domain name properly, users will not be able to access your website. So you have to make sure that the DNS server is working properly and the name resolution is done faster. And you need to have insights on your website's performance, your page speed insight, which will help you in optimizing your website for better performance. And you can also gauge the performance of your real users. Check how fast your website loads when users access your website from different locations, different browsers, different devices, and you can take necessary action accordingly. And you can also make sure enough capacity in the backend infrastructure. So it's important to monitor your backend infrastructure, like the server where you have hosted your application and your website. And you should have insights on the root cause analysis. Whenever there is an outage or a performance issue is reported, you should have a root cause analysis report which will help you in pinpointing the issue. Say if a website is reported down due to a connection error, you should be able to get a trace route report where you can check in which hop the connection failed. And last but not least, the security it's very important to have a website that's highly secure. Say if your web users are trying to access your website and they receive a warning in the browser stating that the website is not secure or the website is contains some malicious content, it's going to have an impact on your website's integrity. So you need to track website security and you have to provide safer digital experience to your customers. This is the agenda for today's session. These are the 10 tips which helps you in managing your website's experience, user experience. So we'll be discussing in detail all these 10 points and how Site 24/7 helps you in making sure that all these 10 points are monitored or taken care. So first thing, identifying website uptime issues from different locations across the globe. So your users may be distributed across different cities worldwide. Most websites will cater to users across the globe, which makes it extremely important to monitor for its uptime from multiple locations. So the issue that might arise due to the ISP router issues, then connectivity problems at your internet service provider end, CDN issues where there are difficulty in accessing your website content from a particular location, and DNS resolution issues if the domain name is not responding properly. Say for example, there are DNS poisoning or redirection issues which can be monitored. So the solution to check your website's uptime from different locations across the globe is Site 24/7's websites monitor, where we have over 100 plus locations across the globe, and we'll be able to check your website's availability and responsiveness from all these locations. So this is our product. So here we are monitoring this website from 3 locations: Chennai, Dubai, and Riyadh. So we can check if your website is up and running from these locations. And we offer a minimum check frequency of 1 minute. So every 1 minute, we will check your website for uptime and report it to you. Say if there is an issue, you get immediate notification. So even before your customers are affected, you'll be able to get the notifications. So here we'll, let me check for the historical. So we provide the websites uptime from different locations. So when there is a downtime, as I said, we need to have a root cause analysis report. So here we can see the website was reported down due to a connection error, and Site 24/7 will provide you this root cause analysis report where we check the availability from different locations, net path analysis where we give you the network path from Site 24/7 monitoring locations to your server. So you can identify if there are any packet loss or issues within the ISPs between this network path. And then we have a ping analysis, a DNS analysis, a trace route report, an MTR report. With all these information, it's easy for you to pinpoint where the problem is and you can fix the issues with priority. And we also measure the responsiveness of your website. So we can check how fast your website responds to a request received from Site 24/7. So we provide the component split up of the response time, like DNS time, connection time, SSL handshake, first byte and the last byte time. So when there are performance issues, you can identify which component is causing a performance problem, if it is due to your DNS resolution time, or if it is the first byte or the last byte time. So that's pretty much on our website uptime monitoring, where you can make sure that your website is up and running all the time. So we provide 1 minute check frequency to make sure that you get immediate notification when there is an issue. So next thing to monitor for uptime is on the transactions. As I said in the beginning, if you have a sign up form, users come into your website, fill their details and click on sign up. If that form is not working, you will not be able to track any signups to your website. So it's very important to check for key transaction in your websites. Say there are other transactions like shopping cart, e-commerce websites, booking tickets. This could be a critical transaction, because when it comes to an e-commerce application or a website, you may have integrated with your payment gateway solution provider, say your banking website, which is governed by a different provider. So if there are any issues with processing the payment, if the payment gateway is not responding or it is slow, it will have an impact on your business. So you have to monitor the entire transaction flow of an e-commerce site from where the user logs into the page until the checkout process is complete. And the issues might occur if there are some JavaScripts that are broken in the page, or the errors like 400 or 500 errors and if there are any broken links. So with Site 24/7 transaction monitoring, you'll be able to monitor for the entire transaction flow. And the traditional way of setting up the transaction monitoring is by writing script, Selenium based script. But with Site 24/7, we have a recorder tool with which you can easily record a transaction, and the recorder tool will generate the script for you and monitoring will be done. I will quickly show a demo of the recorder tool on how it works. So the recorder tool is available for Windows, Mac OS, and an add-on for Chrome browser. So you can use the Chrome add-on. I'm just going to record a new transaction. So I've loaded a page here, and then I click on corporate, and then I go to products, and then I go to careers. So I have performed multiple transactions here. The recorder tool have captured all the transactions. We loaded the page, clicked on corporate, products, and careers. And the functionality of this recorder tool is to capture each and every action that we perform. Every mouse over action, any keyword that we enter. Say, as I said, if there is a sign up form, all the details entered will be recorded by the recorder tool, and monitoring will be done. Monitoring will be done in the same way the user interacts with your application, and performance metrics are captured. So as I said, if the payment gateway is not responding, or if any one of the step in the transaction is broken, you'll be able to get a notification. Here the web transaction browser monitoring. So you can check the response time for each and every step in the transaction. So you can see if a specific step is taking more time to process, which is having an impact on the entire transaction time. And then we have the availability stats from different locations. And then a screenshot history, which helps you in making sure that the correct transaction flow is being monitored. And then a comparison of the response time from different locations for each and every location for the steps. So you can check how fast the page loads from different locations. So you can compare the response time, because websites availability and performance is always not global. A website might be up and running in one region, but not the other. So it's very important to monitor your website from an end user perspective. So the next point is on third-party domains used in your website. So you can use bootstrap components or images from other domains, and availability of these domains from customer location is vital. So you may be able to access those domains from your location, from your internal infrastructure, but are those domains or those third-party content that you're getting from third-party services are accessible for your customers? That's an important thing. So these issues might occur due to ISP router issues, CDN issues, and DNS resolution issues. And the solution for this is the website monitoring, which we discussed earlier. So you can monitor all the content, the third-party content that you get for your website using your website monitoring. So similarly with the website monitoring, you get all the root cause analysis report. So next is on the websites for your mobile, where you need to monitor your REST API calls. So in the modern world, more and more people are dependent on their mobile devices than on traditional computers. So as I said in the beginning, as of 2019, 50% of all web traffic comes from mobile devices. And REST API is the backbone of mobile applications. So it's very important for you to monitor your REST API calls. And failure in ensuring a smooth mobile experience can turn customers away. So issues may occur due to geographical uptime issues, latency to access endpoint, and functional breakage of the endpoint. And to handle these issues and ensure the smooth functioning of your REST API endpoint, you can use REST API monitoring tool like the one offered by Site 24/7. So Site 24/7 REST API monitor regularly tracks your API calls and simultaneously determines the response and performance of your REST API. So here we will validate the response of your REST API calls. If the REST API response is going to be in JSON format or XML format, so you'll be able to validate the JSON or the XML response. So you can, as you can see here, we are monitoring our REST API. We have configured some XPath validation, which has failed, and we have given the root cause analysis along with the HTML, the source of the page. So you can make sure what is the response of your REST API call. Let's show the configuration part. So here you provide your REST API endpoint URL, define the form submission method, whether it's post, get, put, delete, or patch, or configure additional headers, user agents. And here we have the content validation, whether it's going to be in JSON format or XML format. So with this, you will be able to monitor all your REST API calls and make sure that mobile applications are functioning properly. So here you can measure the response time of your REST API call as well from different locations. The second solution for monitoring your REST API call is or REST API transaction monitoring. So the previous monitor that we discussed is on monitoring an individual endpoint URL. So we also provide an option where you can monitor workflows in REST applications. Each step will either be an HTML request or a REST API call. And this is a REST API transaction monitoring where you can monitor up to 25 endpoint URLs in one monitor. And we have a minimum check frequency of 10 minutes. So here with our REST API transaction monitoring, so we'll be able to forward parameters. Say if your REST API calls want to get an auth token and use that auth token in the second step, you'll be able to use the parameter forwarding functionality to forward that parameter to the second step. So here you can see the configuration. This is the REST API endpoint URL. You have to configure the HTTP methods. Response validation is supported like XML or JSON. And then parameter forwarding. You can define the response format, define the parameter, and this parameter can be used in the second step. So whatever value we get here for this response will be used in the second step for the authentication. So likewise, you'll be able to monitor the entire transaction flow using our REST API transaction monitoring. So once you get an alert, say for instance for a REST API monitor, you'll be able to get the response of your REST API call. So you can validate the response and see what is the response received from site 24/7 during the month. So these are all the different uptime monitors what we offer, where you can check for your website's uptime, transaction uptime, and REST API monitoring. And as I said, website monitoring from multiple locations across the world is critical. And any kind of website that a website might face will likely result in customer frustration and loss of revenue. So uptime of a website is the primary need for all businesses. So the next is the performance. So making sure that your website is up and running all the time doesn't guarantee that your users are satisfied, because we have this term called slow is the new down. If a website is not loading, users do not have the patience to wait. They tend to move away from the page, which is again a downtime. So even though if your website is up and running all the time, but if it is not performing well, then it is considered a downtime. So here we are going to discuss on some points where you can make sure that your website is performing well. So the first thing in making sure that your website is performing well is the DNS resolution. So you have to ensure that your domain resolution is fast from different locations across the globe. So we will be able to resolve your DNS, your domain from your DNS server from different locations across the globe, either IP4 or IPv6 address, and whether the correct IP address is getting resolved. And you can also check for the DNS service response time. So how fast the name resolution occurs, if there are any DDoS attacks, non-renewal of the domain, DNS poisoning or redirection issues, everything can be monitored with the DNS monitoring. So with Site 24/7 DNS monitoring, so just show the configuration page. So you can provide your DNS server and then the domain. So what we will do is we will resolve this domain using this DNS server and check how fast the name resolution happens. And you can also validate the response. Say if the response is going to be in NS format, so you can just provide the IP and we will check whether the correct IP address is getting resolved. And we also measure the performance, where you can check the response times, like how fast the name resolution happens. So you can see the response time from different locations. So for each and every location, how fast the name resolution happens. And with DNS monitoring, we provide the root cause analysis similar to the website, where you can get the trace route report, DNS analysis, or ping analysis. So with those information, you'll be able to identify issues with your DNS monitoring. So the next important factor is the page speed insights. When it comes to your website's performance, it's important to analyze all the components in your website and identify if a specific component is causing a performance issue. So if you added a new image to your website and if that image is taking more time to load, so you have to monitor that image and check if there are any issues so you can optimize it for better performance. So with Site 24/7, we'll be able to monitor the different website elements which can affect your website's performance. You can increase or enhance your website's page load time. The issues might arise due to image size, inline scripts, or cache management. So to handle these individual elements and optimize your web page, you can use a tool like Site 24/7's PageSpeed Insight, where we provide the monitoring using a real browser. We download each and every component of your website and give you a waterfall chart. So for every element, you can check what is the response time. So for each and every element in your website, as I said, if an image is taking more time, you can check why that image is taking more time to load. If there are any broken objects in your websites, you'll be able to get notified. And with this information, we give you some insights. So we provide the page speed insights, where we give a page speed score and some suggestions where your website can be optimized for better performance. So here we have a suggestions: minimize the request size. So this URL don't fit in a single packet. So reducing the size of these requests could reduce latency. So we're given a suggestion where this page size can be reduced, and then we have an option to remove query string from static resources. This is again another suggestion where the static resources can be removed from the query strings, which will enhance your website performance. So with this kind of suggestions, it's easy for you to enhance your website for better performance and make sure the user satisfaction levels are met. So that's on Site 24/7 website performance monitoring, where we check your website performance using a real browser and give you some insights on analyzing and optimizing your website. So using your website page speed insight, you can isolate website elements that are slow or large in size. So as I said, if an image is very large and it's taking more time, you can optimize it. And you'll get some best practices for optimizing your website. So you'll be able to measure the web page speed score based on the page load time, the number of requests, the page size. All these components will be used to measure page speed score. So far we have discussed on monitoring a website for availability performance from end user perspective, like from Site 24/7's monitoring locations. So this is the synthetic tool, synthetic monitoring. It is also important to monitor the real user experience on your website. So some of the issues the user might experience in the real time might be due to the website load time from different locations. Maybe it's an issue with the device the user is using, or if the resources are taking more time to load in the browser. So these are all the issues that might affect an end user satisfaction level. And the solution is Site 24/7's real user monitoring. So one of the key metrics in measuring end user satisfaction is the AppDeck score. So AppDeck is an open standard for measuring user satisfaction, with a value ranging from 0 to 1, with 0 being the worst and 1 being the best. So on a scale to 0 to 1, the AppDeck score is measured. And other than AppDeck score, you can also see the performance of your website with respect to ISPs, browsers, device types, as well as other performance metrics such as response time of web transactions, resources, the various JavaScript errors that may be present on the website, as well as AJAX calls that were made. So using this information, your developer would be able to tailor your application to be more fluid to end users. So here with our real user monitoring. So monitoring is done by injecting a script in your website's HTML. Whenever a user tries to access your website, we capture the performance metrics from the user's browser. So this is the script which has to be injected in your website, and we'll be able to capture the performance from the user's browser from whichever location the users are using your website. So you can see from different locations what is the response time and the page views. So you can also measure the user base, from which part or which region we have more number of users accessing your page. So you can see state level information as well, like from California, New York, New Jersey, what is the number of page views and the response time. And ISP level metrics, the different ISPs through which traffic is routed. Browser metrics, different browser that the users are using along with its version, so you'll be able to measure the performance across different browsers. Device-based metrics across different devices like Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and you can check its performance. Each and every web page in your website, what is the performance, and then the resources like the first party, third party resources, CDN resources that are in your website and how well it are performing. So whatever metric that we are discussing here are all captured from the user's browser, like some live data captured whenever a user is accessing your website. You can measure your Ajax calls, the JavaScript errors thrown in the browser. The performance monitoring solutions from Site 24/7. We can monitor your DNS server's performance, your website's performance using a real browser, analyzing the different elements and components in your website. So the next important factor in the performance monitoring is ensuring you have enough capacity in the backend infrastructure. All the features that we discussed before are front end, like user facing. If the backend infrastructure is not up to the mark, the customer experience will be underwhelming, leading to losses for your business. So hence, monitoring the infrastructure that supports your website is very critical. So as a thumb rule, it's always better to have infrastructure in place accounting for your future web traffic and not for your current web traffic. So the issue might occur due to memory usage issues, CPU issues, and disk usage issues. And the solution is server monitoring from Site 24/7, which is an agent-based monitoring where you can run the agent in your server. Performance metrics are captured and pushed to Site 24/7. So you'll be able to monitor critical performance metrics like CPU, memory, disk utilization, the processes and services that are running in your server, and you'll be able to get instant notifications when there are performance issues. So here, under the server monitoring, once you install the agent, it captures the CPU, memory, disk utilization. You'll be able to check for the top processes consuming more CPU or memory. So you can just place your mouse pointer over the performance chart. And then we provide prediction. So based on the historical usage, we'll be providing the disk usage with capacity planning. So you'll be able to plan accordingly. So as I said, depending on the web traffic, you have to make sure that the infrastructure is ready to support for future web traffic. So with this kind of predictive analysis, you'll be able to get information on the disk usage, when it is going to run out, and you'll be able to take necessary action. You can add additional disk storage to your service. And you can also troubleshoot server issues, like whenever there is an outage is reported, we provide a root cause analysis for the server, where we'll give you the top processes by CPU, memory, the event logs. So you get complete insight on the backend server where your website is running. So next thing is the security. So this is the final tip where we can track website security to ensure a safer digital experience to your customers. So even after taking every measure to keep your website up and running at full speed, if the website browsing experience is unsafe for customers, it's going to be an issue. So the lack of security will impact the website by not only getting penalized by search engines, but also result in loss of trust and revenue. Some of the common issues that may arise due to lack of web security: blacklisting of IP or domain by popular databases and browser, which will result in users being warned while trying to access the website; SSL certificates not getting renewed, which in turn will result in users seeing an invalid certificate error; content defacement by adding malicious content in your website, which will result in phishing attacks on customers. So to monitor this, we have our web security monitoring, where you can check for website content changes, web page defacement. So if a hacker is injecting some unwanted content, images or script into your website, it's very important for you to get notified of that, because you may lose integrity. The website content gets modified. So with Site 24/7, we'll be able to monitor for changes in your website content like text, links, iframe. So any content that is changed, we'll be able to get a notification. And we also provide the source, like the original value along with the modified value. So it will be easy for you to identify what content is modified, and you'll be able to revert the changes. If the change is not made by you, you can easily revert it back to the original content. So we support website defacement monitoring, where you can check for any website content changes in your website, like unauthorized changes. So some of the web security issues, website defacement. The second one is the real-time blacklist check, where we can check for your website whether it's added in blacklist databases. So you'll be able to check for different blacklist providers like Invaluement, SIP, Not Spam, SOBs, HTTP, SOBs, SOCs. So if your website is added in any of these blacklist providers, we will notify that to you. And you can also check for brand reputation, which is using the Google Safe Search list. So when you search for your website in Google, Google will provide a tag like whether the website is malicious, whether the website contains some unwanted software. So with our brand reputation, we'll be able to monitor for your website against this safe browsing list, and we'll notify you regarding that. And then we have the SSL certificate monitoring. So there are times when we may forget to renew the SSL certificates or domain. So with Site 24/7, you'll be able to send notification where 30 days prior to the expiration, we will send you a notification so you can renew the SSL certificates on time. And same way the domain as well. So you can check when your domain is going to expire, and you can get a notification when it is about to expire. So you can renew the certificates and domains on time. So these are the 10 tips, important 10 tips to enhance your website experience, like user experience. So I hope the session was informative. Once again, I thank everyone for your time and patience during the session. Thank you all and have a great day.